The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 201.
201.
201.
201.
Wow.
I know, crazy, huh?
We have exceeded 200.
Yeah, it's wild. It's still, yeah.
All right, then. What is the topic for today?
This is, where does evil come from?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
I'm looking forward to talking about
Me
this.
too.
Yeah.
All right, before we do then, anything you want to talk about from last week?
Yeah, so last week we did What in the UFO? And Crystal wrote in, she said, first off, congrats on 200. I feel like if the extraterrestrials wanted to hurt us, it would have already been done. They look at us like we're cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe extraterrestrials are the missing link in evolution. Example, people with Rh negative blood and the issues with pregnancy, ancient civilizations. I think at one time they were massively helping us with farming, knowledge, and building. Unfortunately, I don't think we've evolved enough spiritually as a whole for them to want to interact with us, as we are still like cavemen. Also, I'm feeling like as part of your soul contract, or whatever you want to call it, you can go to these other places and be one of these other beings. For some reason, we've chosen to come to be cavemen, though.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. You nailed it. Who was that again?
That was Crystal.
Crystal, you nailed it.
Everything you said.
Yeah.
Right there. That's exactly right.
And they know this because they helped put us here.
Right.
So, but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true that we are the cavemen.
We are. We really are.
We're the hotheads.
Yeah.
And until we cool down and relax, that's
Yeah,
when it'll happen.
Why would they want anything to do with us until then?
They don't need anything from us.
Yeah.
And if they do, they can get it without really,
Yeah, we're shoot first, ask questions later type of planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was great, Crystal.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
like that question, or that statement, Crystal. Thank you for sending that in. All right, and then we answer 2 questions every week. The first one, losing my water. The first one is from Jen. She says, I have learned that alcohol basically kills your soul energy and is very low vibrational. What about marijuana? Curious if that is something that could possibly affect vibration or harm it. So I'll tell you a little story here that my husband is definitely a weed advocate and smoked a lot of it when we met. And I started as well with him. And that's when I had the spiritual awakening. I really feel like I had to do that in order to open these abilities. It helped me to relax. It helped me to see things on a deeper level. And I totally understand what you mean about alcohol. That is literally the worst drug on this planet.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, if it comes from the earth, that it's put here for a reason.
Yeah.
It's put here to help us, to medicate us, whatever. And
I totally agree with you. I think alcohol doesn't have a whole lot to offer.
Yeah.
I do think it's a very negative thing. I grew up with it around a family that abused it. So it's not a good thing. Is it a classification of a drug just like marijuana? Well, yes. Then you'd have to say they're both drugs.
Yeah.
However, one is created by man, one is created by Mother Nature. Today, world, man can cultivate this marijuana.
Right.
And it can become man-made, but it still is a product of the earth.
It is. And when you said that, what I heard was, but by what standards is it a drug? What makes it a drug? Because it alters your perception and your reality.
This is according to our government's classification.
There's nothing wrong with altering your perception.
I've never seen myself watch anybody on marijuana do the things that I've seen people do on alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
And that's including myself.
And You know how many people have died from marijuana? As many that have been stabbed in the chest by unicorns. That's how many. That's no joke. But I should look up how many people die every year as far as alcohol goes.
I think it's one of the top 3 or something
Yeah.
of our besides heart disease, maybe. But
And cancer, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But also in there started a good conversation. And I think it was Nancy and Jen and Jackie, I can't remember. But they started talking about also hallucinogenics, mushrooms,
Yes.
you know. That is something that Danny and I are going to do an episode on at some point, and I'm also going to do an episode on my radio show with Mystic Molly about the use of hallucinogenics in opening your spirituality
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because yes, it's definitely, I think for a lot of people, helpful.
to answer Jen's question though, I feel like when I put alcohol in my body, it's fun for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
That first few minutes when it's like, ooh, I got a little tipsy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like almost immediately within 45 minutes to an hour, the brain starts feeling that dehydration kind of feeling. And
Yeah.
the headache comes on and nothing good comes from continuing for me to just keep going. It
Yeah.
just doesn't. But I've never behaved that way when using marijuana.
No.
And I got in trouble a lot at a young age for marijuana with my parents, school, things like that. You know, I was forced to like do things that I really want to have to do, you know, being punished. And I understand that as a parent. Now I understand that, to make sure that I didn't go off some wild, crazy deep end, you
Yeah.
know. But I continue to always do that.
Yeah.
At least the marijuana part. And it was more of a preventative thing from me being an unruly person. I didn't do great in school, but I wasn't getting arrested or robbing and stealing and,
Yeah.
you know, pillaging. But I always did it.
Yeah.
And as a creative person,
Yes.
it's always been helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessary because I've gone through periods where I did embrace sobriety, like didn't do anything for probably 4.5 years, one period of my life. And I still was creative,
Yeah.
but it definitely is great for it, you know, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as far as raising your vibration goes, that if it helps you with anxiety and with getting out of your own head, that it absolutely will help to raise your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful, of course, what strain you go for.
It's important to kind of educate yourself on it, you know? But medicinally, it definitely is a pain reducer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very effective for that. For anxiety, definitely a reducer.
Yep.
So it has a lot of great qualities that alcohol doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But I see people that have done it maybe for the first time and been overly paranoid.
Yes.
Like they thought something terrible was going to happen to them. So it wasn't a great experience. But that can happen with doing psychedelics too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just have to be smart and be careful and listen to your body and, you know, go with how you're feeling. But
and be in a good place too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a good question. And then the next one is from Mary. She said, "We talk a lot about when your time is up, that's it. There's nothing you can do, and that death is not random. I'm just wondering how something like cancer plays into this. Most people opt for treatment and survive what would have otherwise been a certain death sentence within a given period of time. But if you receive treatment and beat it, then you have cheated death." I think that's a great question. And let me tell you what I feel on this from the universe when I work with families that cancer has been a part of it and these types of things. Cancer is a really good example. Cancer is very, very prevalent in this society, okay, for a multitude of reasons. And most of us will probably at some point experience it, you know, whether it's something big or something small, whether we have to have chemo or whatever it does. I think that if you are meant to go from the cancer, if that is here to take you, that it will. that it doesn't matter what you do, what the chemo, any of that, it won't do anything. There's a lot of people that all of that's what worked for them to cure them of their cancer is their belief and some like supplements and natural stuff.
Yeah.
So you can heal yourself. I really think there are healers that could also heal cancer, but if you're not meant to be healed, it's not going to happen. It's just not. That's my opinion.
I agree with you. I think cancer's like one of these things in our society that rages right now. And it's like part of us unlocking some of the mysteries about our universe and our world and how we can treat ourselves with something like a plague like this that we can't, or a disease that we can't figure out. There's something that you read recently.
Yeah, one of our listeners sent that to me.
Yes.
It was
and
the other Jen.
This is incredible technology and a future that is things I've read about and heard other psychic and mediums share, or reporters like Dolores Cannon share about what was to come in the future. I remember watching Montel Williams years ago and seeing a famous lady by the name of Sylvia Brown. And she was captivating. Just her eyes, and she had these really long nails, and she'd sit there and play with her nails, and her eyes were very intense.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of predictions throughout her life, and a lot of them came true, and a lot of them did not. But one of them she said, and I don't exactly remember the year, but I'm pretty sure it was the 2000s, somewhere early 2000s, that they were going to start healing and treating cancer with high frequency. This also is talked about frequencies being used in the pyramids in Dolores Cannon books about not only were they power generators, but they were high frequency generators that were healers.
Yeah.
They would heal you. The interesting part is people weren't living as long then. So I'm wondering what's the story there. But that's just part of my questioning.
Right.
But this thing that the listener shared with you,
MedBed, I think is what it was called. Yeah.
is this new science or medical science that they're using that it's based on Nikola Tesla's work and using frequencies.
Yep.
And it's basically regenerating your cells through frequencies.
Right.
And basically like an in-office visit. You go in for treatments and you do it. And so, again, to me, when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is like the beginning, at least for the public to know about this. And what this will do will absolutely transform medical care.
Yeah,
there will
absolutely.
be no more hospitals and medicine. It will all be focused on a cell-based thing.
Right. So that what's interesting about that then is, first of all, what are we doing? Are we playing God here by doing that? But I really don't think that even if you do, like, let's say that we use these things, these med beds, and it cures us of cancer. If you are meant to go, you are going to go.
Right.
It's just how it works. I have a friend whose mother passed away. She was hit by a car. And about 6 months before she was hit by a car, her house caught on fire. And pretty sure that she had cancer before that, or there was something, and it was like she kept kind of, you know, I don't want to Final Destination it, but you know what I mean? It was like eventually it was just going to catch up, because when it's your time, and there is nothing that we can do to prevent that. So even if you have cancer and you cure it somehow, it doesn't mean that it's not going to come another way.
Right.
And then there's some people that it's just miraculously cured because they're supposed to be here, because sometimes these diseases, they teach us different things and we bring them on ourselves. Like cancer is the biggest one that we bring on ourselves with our anger and our frustration. That holding that stuff inside of you makes you tense, it makes you sick, and it makes your body attack itself. So if we could learn to not be like that, we would prevent a lot of this cancer ourselves. But just changing mindset and not being so angry, that really, I feel, decreases your chances of getting cancer.
But looking at something from a different angle, as like it's a treatment or a medicine that you can't see.
Yeah.
It's not a pill. It's not an injection.
Yeah, I love that.
This is part of our existence, what flows around us all the time.
Yep.
We give this off. So it only makes sense when you think about it. And then I start to wonder, well, what happened with the human race throughout time? Because biblically, it's recorded that people lived hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And then you get to the Egyptian phase and they're living to like 30, maybe?
Yeah. Right.
I think, roughly.
Right. Yeah, they were pretty young.
And now we're in a phase where we're living longer than then, but we have this thing in our world that we can't quite figure out.
Yeah.
And we're looking for all these answers, and it's invisible.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's right there. We're surrounded by it.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's incredible.
So hope that answers your question, Mary. That was a great question.
Yeah, it was. We went off on that one.
We did, but that's okay. That's what Chattering is about. Okay, so then let's do a reading here. This is for Mandy. Mandy said, last August, a friend of mine asked if I could take an abandoned kitten. We had lost 2 kitties earlier in the year and had the space, so welcomed him to the family. Our 2 older cats were not amused by him, so we took another kitten in for him to play with shortly after. A month after taking in the kittens, one of our older kitties' cancer returned after more than a year in remission. She is the one in the photo. Her name is June. She declined fairly fast, and we had to help her cross in December. Part of me feels guilty that the kittens may have made her last moment stressful, and part of me worries if she or the 2 that crossed earlier in the year brought them to us in anticipation of the devastation that was coming. Of course, it was still horribly heartbreaking, but I'm not sure I would have made it through my 5th loss of the year, lost 2 human family members as well, without the lightness they brought to our home. So let's talk to June. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mandy. And I was going to say that before. I haven't read through this because I don't like to read these ahead of time and then it starts, the thoughts going. I want to be fresh. Mm-hmm. But when I started reading this, that was exactly what I thought, is that those kittens were brought to you so that it would be an easier transition for you when your one passed away. We had that happen when we got our Great Dane Zuma, that we had an old lab, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be too much for her? And he was a little much for her, but I really feel like he was brought to us, not just for us, but so that when Sequoia passed away, that Sabbath would have somebody there for him. Yeah. So they do arrange these things, absolutely. Let me talk to June real quick and see what she wants to say about this herself. She wants you to know that the cancer that she had wasn't as painful as you may have thought it was. Not that it wasn't painful, but it was... Okay, so I'm feeling things in the mouth and in the stomach, so this feels like maybe it was some kind of like esophageal cancer into the stomach area. She had a lot of nausea and like heartburn type issues, but the other things that you might have thought that she was feeling, those weren't hurting so much. There were things that you were doing, pain medication, stuff like that, that was absolutely helping her. And then just being with you helped. The kittens, she knew what they were there for. She understood something. I don't know how this happens, but they are told this or something, because I hear this all the time. I knew that other animal was coming in to help ease this. Right. And they're such different creatures from us. They telepathically communicate with each other as well as with the other side. So she was very aware of what was going on. And yes, of course, kittens are annoying to old cats, and so there were moments that she got annoyed, but she doesn't want you to worry that it had any impact on the end of her life. She feels like she passed very peacefully. I feel like you were with her. It was beautiful for her, and there's nothing that can take that away from either one of you. The kittens were they were just kittens, and she understands completely, so doesn't want you to feel guilty about any of those types of things. But they were a gift from other cats on the other side of the universe.
I think that they still have a lineage and family of their own that would share this information with them.
Yes, absolutely.
Their past father or grandfather that say, no, these are going to come in to make this transition easier.
Yes, exactly. So she's very thankful that you were happy with them, and she's still around you all the time, and she's showing me that these kittens still play together like that, and she's showing me her like laying in the middle of them playing. So I don't know how you would know that she's there, but sometimes she is there when they're playing, and she lays in the middle of them. So there you go for June and Mandy.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you. All right, and then let's give our info before we get into the episode.
All right.
So you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. I have a radio show that airs every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on VoiceAmerica.com on the Empowerment Channel. That's a good time every week.
There it is.
And then you, sir.
Yes, for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Yay.
All right, episode 201.
Where does evil come from?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was having a brain fart there for a second.
I was like, this isn't my line, but I'll say it anyway.
We're talking about so many other things, I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does evil come from?
Where does evil come from? One of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is because I do get messages from a lot of people that different types of spiritual scammers and things like that they get, I'll remove a curse, all this or that, that type of stuff that they deal with. But also because I get so many people that are stuck in this hell and devil place, and if there was a God, these things wouldn't be happening. And so I felt this was an important topic to talk about.
I think it's a good one.
Evil can be defined as taking pleasure in the intentional infliction of harm on innocent others. So this encompasses a lot of things, what this evil is. There's, I asked our listeners, let's see, what do you consider evil? And so this is what the top one scored was murdered, animal abuse, abuse of a child or elder, abuse of an adult, and sexual assault were the ones that they marked. A few people marked like compulsive lying, narcissism, cheating. I don't think that that's evil. I think that what the definition said of evil is that if you're trying to intentionally inflict pain among somebody, that's evil.
I agree with that. Yeah,
that's evil. Should we talk for a minute about the devil and hell, and maybe start there?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit about what our spiritual beliefs are, the things that we believe.
Yeah. The definition of evil there really fast is again, a definition of how do we explain something that we really can't see or even really understand. And I kind of see how lines can get blurred there on what level is evil and what level is just a stupid human.
Right.
But my beliefs about this is that there is no devil. There is no entity that makes us or controls the evil that we're aware of or see in the world.
Yes.
This is a place that we came to, we choose to come to learn, and we're given a choice and the freedom of free will.
Yes.
So we can choose to do good or bad.
Yes.
There is no literal place called hell. There is a theoretical place called hell that I don't even have to die in order to live in.
No.
I can live there anytime I want, and those that choose to live there can actually choose to walk out of there anytime they want. You're not a prisoner of it. So for me, a lot of biblical things that are written, if we think that none of these have been edited or misinterpreted through language, translation, and time, I think we're gravely mistaken. And some of it completely removed and not given the opportunity to be read like the rest of the book.
Right.
So, again, it's metaphors.
Yeah.
A lot of, analogies and metaphors to make us think, to use our mind, because that's where our soul and our consciousness is all kind of not in our brain, our consciousness, our mind.
Right.
And so therefore we can live in hell if we choose to live in hell. If you wake up every day and all you see is the bad, the ugly, and that's what you want to turn on the TV and watch, that's what you entertain yourself with, that's what you think about, you can go to a place that it's a long tunnel and you can keep going down and down and down and down as long as you want. But you can also turn around and walk out whenever you want. In heaven, I believe there are levels in heaven. And the lowest level might be some of the people that we've witnessed do some pretty heinous things in this world. From, war to mass shootings to whatever, But where they're at is not a fiery, burning place.
No.
They are learning and privy to the same places to learn in heaven as the rest of us are.
Yeah.
It's just what level are they learning?
Yeah.
They're kind of still in kindergarten, if you would look at it that way. They haven't moved up to first grade because they got to pass that one first.
Yeah.
But it's not an ugly, bad place.
No.
If we are children of this creator, we are essentially a piece of it. Why would it choose to condemn that piece of itself to a fiery, burning lake that we don't have a body, we can't even feel?
Yes. I saw this on TikTok, and it was a guy talking to a minister, and he said to the minister, if I tell my wife, I will set you on fire if you don't love me exactly how I want to be loved, am I a loving husband? And the minister said, if you would do that, then you never loved her to begin with. And the interviewer said, and if God sends us to hell, he never loved us to begin with.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. The whole thing, the whole devil thing is a scapegoat. It's used from religion to keep you trapped in fear. It's used by people that can't take accountability for the things that they've done. Oh, the devil made me do it. Oh, this. I went to a religious school. The first one I went to was when I was 12 years old. And I had never been introduced to religion in my life until this point. And this was a very small school. One of the teachers there, the teacher I had, her husband was the pastor of the church. And they had a few kids. And one day, one of the kids called me out from swearing and said, every time that you swear, the devil gets a check mark. Like, I was doing bad every time. Right. Are you effing serious? Like you're keeping
score over here, lady?
Oh my gosh.
Look, if there was a hell, it would have to have been made by the creator.
Exactly.
Okay, by the source who created it all. There is a light energy that many on this planet are connected to. And then there is a dark energy that many on this planet are connected to. Or drawn to, one or the other, whatever you want to call it. I think that energy, being the dark energy, is the kind of the place you can go. If you want to seek evil, you can let yourself go there.
Absolutely you can.
And yeah, is it a challenge and will you make it out? Well, I guess that's up to you because you're essentially choosing to walk into it. If you're not, then you're going the other direction towards the light.
Yeah.
Those places is kind of that place where I think a lot of things lurk, where we have a lot of mental illness and things that go untreated, undiagnosed, sometimes even entertained by the person themselves.
Yeah.
And to let themselves go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it gets worse and worse.
Yep.
But I honestly believe, and sometimes this is a hard pill to swallow, even for myself, is that no matter the evil that you've done on this planet, you still you all go to the same place.
Yeah.
You're not, if you were looking at it in like who gets what in the line in what order, well, you might be in the back of the line, right, but you're still going to be in the line.
something that we have to remember is that the mind is very, very powerful. And if you want to convince yourself that you have demons around you, you will. You can convince yourself of anything.
You can create that reality.
Absolutely, you can. When I first started learning about this stuff and opening my abilities, I didn't really understand meditation yet. And when I would try and talk to the other side, sometimes I would hear a few different things. I would hear like a record scratching, or I would hear just repetitive swear words over and over again. But it was dark. It felt very dark, and it sounded very dark. And at first I thought, are these evil spirits? Like, what's going on here? And then I meditated, and I learned how to meditate and realized, no, what was happening was their messages were coming in, but my voice and my own voice in my head was overshadowing their messages. And it literally made it sound like there were demons in my head.
Right.
But that doesn't happen to me anymore because I've learned how to control that and not to let my vibration get to that point, get that low.
Right.
If your vibration's that low, you're not going to be able to connect to the other side, first of all. And if you do, it's just going to be negative because you're just going to hear your own thoughts over it.
Right.
So we were talking earlier too about intrusive thoughts. Where did those come from? Like, I don't know. I don't know where intrusive thoughts come from, but it's not some devil going, hey, you should kill that person over there. You should kill your entire family. No, it's not. I don't know why we think those things every once in a while.
I think everybody somewhere has had an intrusive thought that surprised themselves. Like, what?
Why would I think that? Ew, stop it. Yeah.
So, but again, I think maybe it's part of the test of the simulation.
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
Hey, let's see what this knucklehead does. Yeah. Which direction do they go? Towards it or away from it?
Right.
And it's just part of our test. The strange part about this we were talking about earlier too is that we take this all for being so real. Yeah,
exactly.
And then I realize, because you said it earlier, that kind of this is our inability to blame it on another entity such as Satan.
Yes. Taking accountability.
Yeah, it's our inability to take accountability for our own free will and our own choice. And we know damn good and well if you pulled the trigger, you knew you were going to do it when you did it and you knew it was wrong.
Right.
And that's just one example.
Right.
But we all know inside what's right and what's wrong. So that's when you have to face what's next in this simulation of what we call reality.
Yes.
However, when we get to the other side and we realize, again, my belief is that none of this is real.
Yeah.
None of this even exists.
Right.
It's a play. It's a game. It's to see what your soul, how quickly you can get back to the source.
Yeah.
We're energy. That's it. It's a race. It's an intelligent race. It's weird, but that's what it is to me, kind of. So, and there's no losers when I say race, but.
So I guess the gist of it is that evil comes from within a person.
It's us.
It doesn't come from a devil or, something like that. It comes from within, from your ego, like you had mentioned, from greed.
It's ego.
From idealism, from... Some people do have sadistic.
Yeah.
They get pleasure off of that. Some people are mentally ill, and so we have to remember that sometimes people are mentally ill when they do the things that they do, and they murder somebody or whatever. Let's take Jeffrey Dahmer, for example. Okay, was he evil, or did he just have a really messed up childhood and parents that... I know there were things that they said about, like, drugs or something that his mom did while she was pregnant with him. Yeah. She was mentally ill too.
Right.
There was a whole lot of things there.
I believe, honestly, just after kind of watching the things that they've been out with him and reading things, that what he showed us on camera in his interviews is not totally the person. And he had this ability to turn it on and off.
Yeah.
But like if you take John Wayne Gacy next to Jeffrey Dahmer, is that any less or more evil than the other?
Right.
And, because John Wayne Gacy comes off very much like a car salesman.
Right.
You're cocky, kind of guy.
Yeah.
And had little remorse. No remorse for what he did, nor did Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right. No, and that trips me out, is how can you have no remorse?
But then he got in prison and started being cocky and making jokes about, and maybe this was part of his defense mechanism to keep prisoners away from him, was like jokes about I'll kill you and eat you, and well, you know what, it got him killed.
Yeah.
But that was, going to prison was a death sentence for him anyways.
Yeah. Here's another example. We were actually watching this on Netflix, I think this Waco, David Koresh.
Yeah.
This was something that happened in our childhoods, I remember. If you haven't watched this Netflix special, watch it. It's really good. But David Koresh thought that he was the Messiah. And here's the thing with him, is that if he really believed that, if he really believed that he was leading his people to a better life or whatever, was he evil? Now, something in this docuseries that I found very interesting was that Timothy McVeigh, the guy that blew up the Oklahoma,
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, the federal building, he was there. He was sitting there watching one day at Waco.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy is then mad about what happened at Waco and goes and blows up the building in Oklahoma. That, to me, is pure evil. He did it for revenge. He did it to hurt people, to get back at people. But David Koresh, as crazy as he was, I can't convince myself that he was evil because he wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Or at least that's what it feels like. I mean, maybe he was, but it's a different evil to me than Timothy McVeigh or somebody like that.
Timothy McVeigh, that's pretty gnarly, cold-blooded stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but there was one of the guys that was in charge of the Waco situation whose office was in that building, and he was particularly trying to make a statement, I think, to him and the government itself.
Yes.
But the part about Waco for me is that this guy starts splitting families up within the commune, and men are no longer to be with their wives, and now he's doing things with underage kids.
Yes, that is definitely evil.
I look at that and I go, someone like Dahmer, Gacy, or Koresh, I couldn't tell you what's the worst evil, but I'll say they're all three.
Yeah,
that's all three evil.
Kind of evil, yeah.
Because especially somebody that hides behind religion to get their way. And I think David Koresh had his sights on that place at a very young age.
Yeah.
He was like, one day I'm going to take this over, and he did.
Yeah, and his was really for power, I believe, more than anything.
Yeah.
So if he, we had some listeners that asked questions or had things that they want to say, so I want to make sure we get to these.
Yeah.
So one of them is, I think mental illness plays a giant part in the world's darkness. Mm-hmm. Childhood trauma, not getting needs met during major milestones, during developmental stages, definitely contributes and follows into adulthood.
Yep.
And so many other situations can change your life path. But then comes the confusion for me. Did we agree on this on the other side for our soul's developments? Are we helping with other souls' developments? Are some people just born this way as a part of their plan? The whole thing truly confuses me. I, like so many others, don't understand evil against the most vulnerable people, babies, children, elderly, and animals of the world. And that's from Crystal. And I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, the whole thing truly confuses me, too.
Me, too. And I'm not going to pretend to know, because I don't.
No. And that's, especially I always go to Dolores, but when they're explaining to her through her sessions with the clients and these deeper questions, they're like, we can't really explain it to you.
Yeah, you wouldn't
really understand. But what my mind kind of jumps to when you were reading that, I was thinking, so what if I'm like, now, okay, I'm me, Danny, at this life, and I die. And there's something that happens to, say, one of Marina's children or grandchildren. And I have to somehow find a way to be involved, not necessarily from the other side, but come back here. To be involved to help some other situation. And maybe I come in as another family member down the road. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's related to them.
Yeah.
But not this life.
Right.
I'm a different person.
Right.
Same soul.
Yeah.
Different person, but put there to change something.
Yes, absolutely.
Or to help something happen.
Yep. I think the best example of evil of all time is Hitler. Okay. So let's look at this for a minute. Why did this happen? Why did the Holocaust happen? Was it supposed to happen? Okay, that to a lot of people will get them very angry. How could you say the Holocaust was supposed to happen? I don't know. I'm just saying that this is one of the theories, is that he was put here on purpose to do this. Why? I don't know. Because there were lessons that needed to be learned amongst people. Okay, what about if he was put here and that wasn't the intention?
Right.
And he did that anyways. Well, again, this comes back to if you're meant to die, you will. And if you're not, you won't. So I have to feel like other people in the Holocaust were also players in this event.
Yeah.
We'll get confusing here maybe. If you look at simultaneous time and you are a soul and you want to learn a lot and you want to experience different things, who really wants to experience the Holocaust, right?
No.
But maybe it's a part of our soul's journey.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason for it. Those are the things that keep me from going crazy when I think about people like Hitler and Dahmer and all those other murderers and stuff, is maybe there is a reason. Maybe there is a point.
Right.
There has to be, because there's a point for everything.
It could be a lesson on multiple levels.
Yes.
Okay. First, it could be Hitler's lesson of Hitler had an issue with his personality and his desire for control and power, and he was not heeding the warnings to this.
Yeah.
And then through influence, you draw other people in. It was a lesson for other government and people of the world, but we'll just start with government. Lesson of when do we stand up and speak for freedom?
Right.
It was a lesson for the people that suffered in it.
Right.
Purely for that, unfortunately.
Right.
But yes, because of what you're saying, it then creates a situation where any one of us through simultaneous time can come in and experience either a whole life of that or a portion of that from any angle.
Right.
But as a victim of it.
Yep.
The one thing that I think everybody that suffered that would walk away and say, that is like the most loneliest, coldest feeling ever.
Yeah.
Like literally feeling like being discarded like a piece of trash into a garbage can.
Yeah.
That is experiencing what zero love feels like.
Yeah. And we're supposed to experience it all.
We do.
Yeah.
All of us. Mm-hmm. Through many, many times of experiencing this. And not necessarily just here. We'll come here and do these things, and we'll go to other worlds.
Yeah.
And experience different things that you couldn't even fathom, that I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul said something similar. He said, in regards to soul contracts, it's difficult to understand how somebody would purposefully come to Earth and commit crimes of evil in order to fulfill a mission or contract. Is it all a part of the lessons we have to learn? I really think it is. I really think that's what it comes down to. And a lot of people look at that, okay, if there was a God, he wouldn't allow these things to go on here, right? Well, first of all, those things don't go on in heaven. That's why it's heaven. That's the difference between here and there, is that these things do not happen there.
Right.
They happen here. But if they happen by free will, which is a very big possibility, the universe doesn't have control over that, because, hello, free will.
Right.
You can do whatever you want, you know?
There's the karmic wheel that is threaded into all this. So if you do wrong in one life, that sets kind of my example earlier when I said if I was reborn down the line, but in my family, I'm coming back to try to correct and undo something that was maybe either my fault, maybe it wasn't, but I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
That is paying the karma.
Yeah.
And we're on this wheel. So if every one of us came back and acted like Jesus,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have this karmic wheel and there wouldn't be any need for evil.
Yeah, that's right. Make a very valid point. So I asked our listeners, have you ever done something that you consider evil? And 87% said no. 13% said yes. So I think it's important for us to look at what we consider to be evil, because we've all done bad things in our lives. But if you haven't done something malicious, intentional to hurt someone else, don't beat yourself up and put yourself in the evil category, because people mess up and they do bad things. I actually came across an article that talked about reasons why good people do bad things. It doesn't make them evil.
Right.
We get hurt a lot. A lot of us are very sensitive, you know, with the things that we grow up with, and not having the nurturing and those types of things can cause people that are relatively good people to do bad things.
Yeah.
Fear is another one. Fear of losing someone. You see a lot of times people that go crazy in relationships, and like men that kill their spouse or whatever, because ex-spouse, because they're jealous and stuff like that. Well, is that person actually evil, or were they just so scared and they've snapped? It's hard to say, because, you know,
but it just goes to show like how quickly somebody can go down that path to what we would perceive here as a no return.
Yep. Also, being excluded from things, on the flip side, being overly included. Like, you know, if you're bullied, if you're kept from fun things, like a lot of the times you hear these murderers that they actually were bullied, like really, really badly bullied as kids. And that's, you know, makes you do bad things.
I think that, you know, we are our own judge and our own jury when all's said and done. When we sit and have our life review and we look at the things, and we look at where, at least heaven's concerned, where evil starts, where is the line?
Right. Yep.
And who am I here today to point my finger and at any one particular person and say you're more evil than you?
Yeah.
Just like for me to say you're better than you.
Right.
That's not for me to point that finger at anybody.
No.
But myself, and to understand that everything is forgiven.
Yeah.
It's not really even a question, really. You have a home base. So you go back there and you figure out what it is that you did. Was it evil? Well, then you might have to do it again.
Yeah.
And hopefully you make a different choice.
Yeah. And even if you do something in this life that's evil, it doesn't mean that you can't learn from it here. Really. That's what this is all about. Like a couple of the other things on this list were guilt and shame. And it's funny how sometimes those things will make people do even worse things. They're shameful, or they feel guilty about something, and so they just keep going with it because that makes more sense than exactly.
The ego.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where we have to, like, even with the things in our lives where, you know, it talks about the good people that do bad things. This is where we have to do the introspective work and say, what type of person do I want to be? Now, again, some people they have issues, they have mental health issues, and they need to get therapy for that or medication or whatever. But let's just talk about the average person and what we can do to kind of change some of these things, because we also spread these things, the hurt, fear, insecurity, guilt, shame, we spread those on to other people. And I think it's just about asking ourselves every time that we do something, am I hurting somebody with this action? What are my intentions with this?
Right.
Even when it comes down to having a harsh conversation, or, you know, I don't like name calling. Stopping before you call somebody a name and thinking, what good is this going to do me? Is this going to help the situation? It really is all about our mindset and not wanting to act that way, not wanting to be that way.
I'm surprised how many relationships or conversations I've heard where that's a norm.
Yeah.
Like the name calling. It's just like, really?
Yeah. It doesn't
This is the
work
person
for me.
you love,
Yeah.
you know? Mm-hmm. But
yeah, absolutely. So really going back for a minute, you know what? I wanted to hit these other polls that I did for the listeners let's see, because I did ask them to, is Satan real? And 82% said that they don't believe that Satan is real. Jacqueline said, I think our ego is Satan, if that makes sense. And I think we can manifest evil as well, but there is no evil great enough to overpower a high vibration.
Right.
That I think,
and that's like saying, is Lucifer the archangel evil?
Right.
No. God made him.
Yeah, God made him.
He's not evil.
Absolutely. So he is real if you want to look at it that way, but he's not in the sense of this devil.
No, he doesn't have his own place separate than heaven.
Yeah, no. And that's what Shauna said. She said, I believe he is or was a real being, but I don't believe he was evil.
Right.
No, he just, like everybody else. So, so that's what I have for you today with the evil.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You know, I read this really cool thing on Facebook, and it was just really kind of blew my mind. I think it was from John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he said, I don't live in a bad world, and I don't live a bad life. He says, if I am surrounding myself with the right people and I'm doing the best I can possibly as me and making the best choices I can, that's my life.
Yeah.
When I start to focus on the negative and the evil, I'm going to see that.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And then we somehow sort of like mimic that.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody that goes to another state or country and starts taking on their accent.
Yeah.
We tend to mimic.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But since we have a few minutes, I want to talk about something that goes along with this, and that is spiritual scammers. Because I do get messages a lot from people that tell me that they get messages from people pretending to be psychics saying things like, you have a curse that I need to remove from you, or, whatever.
They're
a plethora of
threatening
things.
like family members, weren't they?
Yes,
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yes, if you don't pay me to do a reading for you, I'm going to kill your family. What? But most of them that I've seen are not that extreme. They'll message you and say things, because I get them too, that, I was drawn to you and I want to do a reading for you. And then they will ask you for money. Right. And then most of the time they will say something like you're cursed or whatever, and it's going to cost more money to have the curse removed and blah, blah, blah. None of this is real. I can tell you that real psychics, for the most part, do not reach out to people for readings. It's a rule that I have. Even if somebody asks me, like I had a client ask me today to reach out to somebody else that she didn't know but saw on Facebook for a reading, and I said no. He said if they want to reach out to me, they can. It doesn't work like that, So never, if somebody reaches out to you, no.
Especially if they're threatening your family.
Yes, but it doesn't even need to get that far.
It doesn't. It's just a scam.
It is a scam. Never
Fear.
give them any, credit card information. Don't send them money, please. Just be very careful with these types of things because they will get you. They will take your money, and they're not going to remove a curse, and they're not going to give you a curse. That's another one. Mm-mm. If you don't send them the money, I'm going to curse you, and you're going to never have love. And people are like, oh my gosh, it's kind of like the chain letter that I didn't forward 2 years ago. Right. Come on. Think logically. Yeah. And I know that for a lot of people, they're still trapped in that whole hell and the devil thing. And one of the things that I did from the beginning was I tried to prove this wrong. And I invited those things into my life. Mm-hmm. I used Ouija boards. I actually said, you want to possess me? Do it. Do it. I dare you. And some people might think that that's crazy. But the reason that I can do that is because I 100% believe there's no such thing. Bad things happen to all of us. Yeah. So if people are going to say that when something bad happens to you, it's because there's a devil or there's somebody that's, out to get you or whatever. No, bad things happen to all of us. It's not a curse. It's not because you broke a mirror or you walked under a ladder or whatever. It's life. And it sucks sometimes, but, it's good and then it's bad and it's good and then it's bad and it's not curses. Right. So.
But it's really more like lives. This is lives.
Yes.
Because this is an ongoing thing.
Yes.
You don't know. You could be back here trying to fulfill karma from some stupid thing you did.
Oh my God.
In your last life.
Please.
You know, I mean, we just don't. You don't know, and that's the whole thing about it. It's
You
just
don't
bizarre.
know. You don't know. And a lot of this we don't know. And like you've said, and Dolores, we've heard from Dolores, is you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
We can't explain this to humans because you wouldn't understand. But I definitely believe that all of this stuff fits together like a perfect puzzle. There's a reason why there was a Hitler. There's a reason why there was a David Koresh.
Yeah.
Whatever these are, whatever the reason is, these things all happen for a reason. And we are put in situations where we can act evil to not act evil.
Right.
That sense of the spiritual awakening, I want to be a better person more than I did when I thought there was a little man controlling me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Makes you want to be a better person.
Yeah.
So anyways, there you have it, my friends.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, before we say goodbye to everybody, would you like to give your information one more time?
Yes, you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can find my blog, the radio show. The radio show is Beyond the Bridge with Samantha Jones. So you can search that too on like Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of those. So, and then you, sir.
Yes, for my art one last time, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yay.
Yay! Well, we hope that you guys got something out of it.
That we do.
Go out and be not evil.
Be good.
To each other.
Yes.
And there will be less evil in the world if we all did that.
Absolutely.
It would just go away.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If all
we
of
said,
us
like, I'm
were
not going to do that.
Yep.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in control.
Yeah.
So anyways, we hope you guys have a great week.
That we do.
And until next week, peace
And love.